Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock, which means it's time for another video. And today I am back with the absolutely incredible, always awesome Jess Howard. Now, if you've not been watching the Jess-umentary, where have you been? The idea of the Jess-umentary is that I'm working with Jess. And if you guys watch this, you're going to see exactly what Jess has been doing. Basically, we started a few weeks ago. She had no website, she had no YouTube channel, she had no social media, she had absolutely nothing, and she'd never performed a gig. And we're slowly going through the process of everything that she needs to do and all of the foundations and everything she needs to put in place to become, a professional magician and then eventually a Las Vegas headliner. And you can go check out the in the archives on YouTube. You can go check out in the playlist all of the previous episodes of the Jess-umentary. You really do want to do that because they are awesome. A lot of people tell me it's one of their favorite videos on the channel, but we're back this week. You'll see what's been going on and see where we can push to the next level now. I'm here with Jess. How you doing, Jess? You okay?
Yeah, I'm doing really good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm very good. Like I said to you, I just spoke to Jess off camera before we started. I was supposed to, this is Sunday. I was meant to meet Jess at 9 o'clock this morning, and it's now 10:30. And I overslept. I never overslept, but I came back from a gig very, very, very ridiculously late last night. So that's my excuse, and I'm sticking with it anyway. But I'm good, Jess. I'm really good. More importantly, how are you? Are you well? You good?
Yeah.
Good. Let's talk about what you've been doing and what we can carry on doing to hit those goals. Now, at the moment, I mean, obviously, for people that haven't been watching the Jess-umentary, Jess is full time in school as well. You're full time in school, so you have a lot to do with that, especially with you're doing A levels, right? You're doing A levels,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's a difficult thing in itself as well. That's a little time consuming doing A levels, and then she's trying to fit everything else in around that. So there's only limited time anyway. But we're in a situation right now where a lot of your focus is going on to your J Day act. So to catch people up, Jess has put this incredible act together, and it combines manipulation, card manipulation, ball manipulation, cane manipulation. It combines all of that with quick change and doing some really innovative quick changes. And what's even more impressive is Jess taught herself how to make quick change outfits and how to do quick change. You didn't like buy a book or anything like that. You were just like, right, let's get a pair of scissors and let's just see what happens, which is incredible. And Jess is a member of the YMC, and every year they have something called J Day, and they hold the Young Magician of the Year stage competitions and close-up competitions. And Jess went to the auditions a few weeks ago, and there were loads and loads of people that auditioned, and you were one of six people that made it to 6 acts that made it through to the final, which is incredible. Now, to catch people up, the problem is you performed at Rugeley Rose, and it was a huge success. The audience loved you. You performed at the Magic Circle in the qualifiers, and I assume that you did an amazing job, even though you said you weren't too happy, because you went through to the final and there were some amazing acts there. So I'm assuming you did an amazing job. But then all of your quick change fell apart. Is that right? Is that where we're at right now? Like everything just
Yeah.
disintegrated.
Not everything, but a lot of it, yeah.
And how so my question is, how did that happen? And I know you've been scrambling around to fix it. How is that all going?
Um, so it happened because as I said a while ago, I was doing it kind of from old cheap dresses and kind of changing them instead of like making my own outfits from like scratch to be quick change. But then what's happened is the last couple they're like attached together. That was a very bad idea in itself, attaching them together. So I'm not doing that again. But where they're like cheap and not very good quality, the elastic kind of like it's just not elastic anymore. So suddenly the dress is like huge. So it's falling down where it's like not meant to fall down.
Got
So
you.
yeah. And to fix it, oh, I'm making my own dress.
Oh, shut up. Are you joking? You're actually making your own dress.
Yeah.
Have you ever made a dress before? Have you ever even studied like dressmaking or like
No.
sewing or anything, or like what would they call it when I was in school? Like home economics or something. Like, have you ever done anything like that? Or
Not really, no. But it's okay because I went to the fabric shop and they sell like dress patterns. So I'm like kind of like roughly going off of that and then changing bits where I need to make it quick changeable.
you're incredible. I mean, that's just next level dedication to putting an act together. Nobody watching this can ever have like an excuse of, oh yeah, I haven't got the prop. It doesn't matter. Just teach yourself how to make dresses and then teach yourself how to actually make them into quick change outfits. That's nuts. That's ridiculous. So the competition is coming up soonish. It's this month. We're currently filming this at the beginning of October,
Mm.
and the competition is coming up in October, at the end of October. You reckon you'll have everything done in time?
Should do, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had everything done in time for September, just need to practice it a bit more.
Yeah. Well, it was like I said, it was a great act. I know that you said to me last week you weren't 100% happy with your J Day performance because of the timing in the first half.
Yeah.
But again, think about this for a minute. As magicians, we always tend to look on the negative, but think about this for a second. You weren't happy with that performance, and yet the judges said, no, she needs to go through to the finals. Imagine if you do a performance that you are happy with. I know you're happy with like the second performance of Rougeley. Imagine if you do a performance like that. Well, you could win the whole thing, Jess.
Mm. You never know.
Yeah, you could. Brilliant. So, okay, we'll talk about that again in a bit. But first of all, how are you getting on with sort of the business side of things? Where are you with all of that? So I know we started talking about restaurants last week, and I told you to
Yeah.
we're going to have a look at restaurants some more. We're going to speak a bit more about restaurants. But how is everything else? The reason I ask is one of the things that business owners do, and like it or not, you're a business owner. That's what running. I always say to people, when you are a professional magician, you have to kind of almost switch your mentality to becoming a business owner because you are running the business. Now, the product is you, the service is you, the business is you, but you are still a business owner, and you have to operate. The most successful magicians are the ones that treat their their sort of magic as a business, and but the magicians that don't focus on marketing and sales, they're probably not going to be that successful. So you are a business person. And one of the big things that business owners kick themselves about is they're not doing enough. I do that sometimes. Like I've been focusing quite heavily on one aspect of my business this last couple of weeks, and to the point that almost everything, all of my everything that I've been concentrating on has gone into that. And then I've been beating myself up, going, yeah, but I haven't done this, and I haven't done this, and I haven't done this, and I haven't done this. And you can only do so much. Um, Now you are at school taking your A levels. You're literally teaching yourself to make dresses and design quick change outfits, and you're rehearsing for possibly one of the most important performances in your life. I don't want you to think, oh, I haven't done enough, and I haven't posted that social media clip this week, or I haven't, like done on SEO what I was meant to get done this week. I'm falling behind. Sometimes you kind of just have to, if something big comes along. So if I had an opportunity to enter a huge competition, everything would go on hold and I would just be focusing on that competition because what you wouldn't want to do is kick yourself if you didn't do great in the competition and then you look back and you go, oh, I didn't put 100% in, I was doing that, I should have been doing that. It's kind of a mentality switch, if that makes sense. So where are you? Have you done much on the business side of things, or have you been it's absolutely fine to be focusing on the other stuff right now, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, I've done, but like I've started the restaurant spreadsheet and all of that. Could I ask a quick question about that now or later?
Yeah, yeah, no, no, let's go. Yeah, that's a question. Yes.
Um, if they're like bars as well, is that a bad thing or not?
It's not a bad thing. Bars sometimes are a great place to have a magician. The only problem is I don't know what I mean, this isn't actually an issue. I was going to say I don't know what the legalities are of somebody who's under the age of 18 working in a bar as a magician. I don't know the legalities of that. But you're 18 in like 2 weeks, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So I
it's not
mean,
too much of a
it's it,
problem.
it's a mute point. It's not an issue. So ignore me. Ignore what I said.
Okay.
It's not. So I don't. Yeah, bars are absolutely great. Bars are a fantastic place to do close up magic, and
Yeah.
bars a lot of the time you want to get the right type of bar. And what I mean by that is a lot of the time, your old-fashioned working men's club, that sort of bar, the kind of real, they're not the ones that kind of will go for close-up magic. A lot of the ones that will go for close-up magic are the sort of the more trendy bars, kind of the ones in sort of town centres, stuff like that. They're the ones that would be more than likely to go for close-up magic, and they're great as long as you. We can talk about this more at some point, but any venue, whether it's a restaurant or a bar, is a good place to contact. But what you have to do is you have to figure out what to say to that bar or that restaurant to convince them that hiring a magician is a good idea. And we'll talk about this today if you want to. That's absolutely not a problem. But
Mm.
it's really important to get that, because if you just rock up and you just say, I do magic, they probably won't figure. They'll probably it's unlikely that they'll go, well, we need a magician. They probably won't figure that out, right? So you have to go in and you have to give them the reasons why having a magician in their venue is a good idea. And we can go through the various different reasons. Absolutely not a problem. There's an awful lot of them. But the other thing that you need to do, and this is a mistake that I see a lot of magicians make, and we'll talk about going in and getting the pitch in a second, but while this is in my head, this is really important. When you're pitching these bars and these restaurants to have a magician inside them, you have to make sure that you under promise and over deliver. And what I
Mm.
mean by that is, about 6 months ago, I was speaking to a friend who is a magician in the States. And he was relatively new, and he decided to start doing magic in restaurants and bars. And he managed to get quite a lot of restaurants and bars. He managed to get like 3 or 4 of them over the course of a month period that would have him in on a weekly or a fortnightly basis. And then after about a month, he lost them all. He's like, yeah, I got these 3 residences. They were all having me weekly. Everything was great. And then after a month, after about 4 or 5 of the gigs, they let me go. And then I got a load more. I got another 3, and that went great. And after about a month and a half, they let me go, and I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. I'm really good at magic. I don't get what I'm doing wrong. And I was like, well, give me the pitch. Tell me exactly what you were saying to these bars and restaurants. And he turned around to me and he said, well, I was telling them that if you get me in, I'll make sure that you get massively more work. So I'll make sure you get massively more people in through the door. You'll have people coming in specifically wanting to see the magic. Your takings will be up because more people will be coming in, and therefore you'll be selling more food and you'll be selling more drink and so on and so forth. So the problem is that wasn't happening. So he was getting the residency based off what he was telling them, which is you're going to have more customers come through the door. You're going to have, uh, better. You're not going to have more takings. You're going to have more sales, and that wasn't happening. And so they got rid of him because he went in. He went in and he promised something, and that wasn't delivered, and so they got rid of him. It's a little bit like you walking into a magic shop. It's like you. I don't know. It's not. That's a terrible example. It's I can't think of an analogy because it's too early in the morning and I've just woke up. But it's not a good thing to do, because what will happen is they will, if you pitch that restaurant on having a magician based on a particular quantifiable factor, and that factor doesn't come off in the time frame that he said it will come off, they're going to get rid of you because they've got you in for one particular thing. So when you're pitching the restaurant, you need to pitch them in a way that they get excited about having a magician there. But at the same time, you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, because then they're going to get rid of you. It's about longevity. I've had restaurants that I've worked there for years. In fact, the gig that I told you about yesterday, it's not a restaurant residency by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a rugby club. And they have been booking me for 15 years. They've been booking me. And they get me in for annual dinners, and this was their sort of their annual dinner. They've had me in the past for a variety of different things, and I've been working with them, built up that relationship over 15 years, and I've done a ton of work with them. But that's because they know exactly what they're getting with me, and I deliver what I'm going to say. So the important thing is, when you're pitching a restaurant, you need to make sure that you pitch them in a way that gets them excited about having the magic, but at the same time, pitch them in a way where they can look at it and they can go, yeah, we're getting what we're wanting to get, what we said we were going to get, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
That wasn't the question that you asked, but it popped into my head, and I thought I'd just quickly mention it because it's kind of a really important thing to understand. But in terms
Yeah.
of bars and restaurants, yeah, absolutely, bars are great. Um, you know, kind of look at the bar and look it up, look a picture of the bar up, or you know, you might know it. Maybe if it's in an area that you know, you might know it. But if you don't, look at it on Street View, look at the pictures of it, look at its website, and then ask yourself a question: would this place benefit from having a magician? If it's the sort of place where you're wiping your feet on the way out, and you know there's that guy Chad that's in the corner just drinking 15 pints every single day, and there's you know, maybe they might not want a magician, but
Yeah.
never know.
They're
Chad,
more like restaurant bars as well, because I was looking and a lot of the ones in my kind of area are like both bars and restaurants. They're not just restaurants.
that's cool. I tell
Yeah.
you what, have you ever heard of Revolution Vodka Bar?
No.
Okay, it's a chain of bars called Revolution. I think they're still around. I assume they're still around. I don't know. I haven't been to bars for a very long time. You know, so it's not a thing that I do anymore. But Revolution vodka bars were huge, and I had a couple of restaurant residencies at Revolution vodka bars where I would just literally go in and people would be drinking, and I'd just be going up in that bar and I'd just be performing for the people who were drinking in that bar. And it was an amazing gig that had me in on a Friday and a Saturday. And yeah, so bars work really well. Bars work really
Okay.
well.
Thank
But
you.
well, as we're talking restaurants and bars, do you want to carry on talking about it? And I'll give you some more information about all of this. Would
Yeah,
that
sure.
help? Yeah, okay. So you're going to have to remind me. Last time we spoke, I suggested that you have you put a spreadsheet together of the name of the restaurant, stroke bar, the postcode, so you know where it is, how far away it is from you, the manager's name, the phone number, the email address, and then you set a spreadsheet up, and you also have in a section in there that says next action, so that you know what you're going to be doing. Is that right? Is that where we got to?
Yeah.
Perfect. So let's talk about what happens when you finish that spreadsheet. So the goal here is basically we're not trying to get a residency. Now, just I know you know this, but for people that are watching this that are maybe unaware, the goal when you go into a restaurant is to get a residency, which is where you're there on an ongoing basis. It's the best type of gig that you can get, especially when you're first starting out, because it gives you regular money, as opposed to having to chase the next gig and chase the next gig and chase the next gig. If you have a restaurant or a bar as a residency, you can, you know, if you're there every single week, so you know whatever you're charging times that by 4, it's almost the equivalent of having like a set wage, which is great when you're running your own business, when you're a magician, right? And when I first started, all I did was restaurants. Like I would have so many restaurant residencies, and I had some that would go every week. I would have some that would go every fortnight, and I had one or two that were every month. But whether it was every month or every fortnight or every week, they were all restaurant residencies, right? And that's the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to get that because that's amazing. The only reason I stopped, I mean, we still, as a company, have restaurant residencies now. We still do, um, but the reason I personally stopped doing them is just because I got busy doing everything else. The, I was becoming more successful with people inquiring for me for corporate events and weddings and so on and so forth. That I got to a point where I was like, I'm not going to be able to do these restaurants anymore because me going into doing these restaurants is stopping me from being able to take on the other work that I want to take on. I'm having to turn everyone away. I'm not able to do it. So that's kind of why I stopped doing the restaurants. But for the longest time, I did them, and it was great, absolutely fantastic. So the goal is to get a residency, so you know that you're going to be there every week, or you're going to be there every fortnight, or whatever the case may be. But when you're trying to land that restaurant, you don't want to think of it initially as getting a residency. Your goal is to get a one-off gig. Your goal is to get a one-off gig, just one booking. That's what we're trying to achieve here. We're trying to achieve one booking. Um, and then get a restaurant residency off the back of it. That's how my system has always worked. So we've got our spreadsheet. The first step is to get you in front of the manager, the owner of the restaurant. I think last time we talked about the difference between managed houses and owned houses, right? So we
Yeah.
want to try and get you in front of the manager or the owner of the restaurant. Now, I did it one particular way when I first started, which was a ball ache. And then I ended up doing it a completely different way. And that other way works much better. But I'll tell you the first way so you understand why I went to the second way. So the first way I decided to do it to get myself, the goal here, and we'll call this phase one. And the goal of phase one is to get you in front of the person in a face-to-face meeting, right? So how I used to do it is I used to take the restaurant's full address and I used to send them an information pack through the post. And I'd send a bunch of restaurants information packs with, pictures and so on and so forth, and a covering letter. I'd send that out, and then I'd call them a week later. And I'd call them and I'd say, "Hey, I sent you an information pack. Have you received it?" And everyone would say no. And I began to realize that restaurants get so much junk mail that they were opening it and they were like, this is unimportant. And they were just chucking it and they weren't reading it, right? I was like, okay, that's not going to work. So then I thought, right, I'll send them an email instead. Well, an email is an even easier thing to dump. A lot of people just won't even read your emails, to be perfectly honest. So that's yeah, sorry. They won't even read your emails. So that's the other problem. So I was sending people emails, and I was yeah, I was sending people emails. Sorry, I've just completely lost my train of thought. I was sending people emails. They were getting emails, and I was then ringing them up, and I was saying, "Hey, I've sent you an email. Did you see it?" And they were like, "No." So either they were lying about receiving the email, or it was going into a junk folder, or it's getting deleted, or a gatekeeper wasn't even putting it in front of the right person. Do you know what I mean by gatekeeper?
I think so. There's just someone kind of in charge of
Yeah,
the
so
emails.
gatekeepers, it's a sales term, really. A gatekeeper, when you're doing sales, whether it be phone sales or email sales or whatever the case may be, there'll be somebody in the company that operates as a gatekeeper. What the gatekeeper is it's their job to stop anyone from speaking to the decision maker unless um, it's somebody that's very, very important that the decision maker wants to speak to. And the reason is that decision maker is probably got a million different things going on. And if they answer every single sales call, they won't get anything done. I'll be honest with you, both me and Sarah have gatekeepers in our company, so that if you call the company, it's going to be unlikely to get hold of us unless it's somebody that we want to be got hold of. So there's gatekeepers in any company, and the problem is they a lot of the time they'll manage the email account. So if they see an email coming in going, "Hey, my name's Jess, and I'd like to speak to you about having a magician in your restaurant," I don't know why I made you American then. That's weird. What will happen is that gatekeeper um, will then go, "Oh, he's not going to be interested in that, or she's not going to be interested in that," and they're going to bid it off, right? So the email thing didn't work. So I then went to the approach that's always worked for me for the last 15 years, which is I ring up the restaurant, and don't forget, I've got the manager's name. So I just have to speak to the manager. I just have to ask to speak to the manager. But I don't just, let's say the manager's name is Jess Howard. I'm not going to ring up and go, "Hi, can I speak to the manager, please?" Or, "Hey, can I speak to Jess Howard, please?" Because more than likely, if a gatekeeper answers, they're going to go, "Can I ask what it's regarding?" And then I'm going to have to get into a conversation with them. And then, depending on the gatekeeper, they might go, "Oh, just drop them an email. They're busy." And I'm not going to be able to speak to the right person. So, how I deal with it now is I ring up the venue and I go, "Hey, can I speak to Jess, please?" Almost as if like I'm their friend, and I know who they are, I imply that. I don't say it. I don't go, yeah, me and Jess are best friends. Yeah, we go back. I don't say that, but I kind of imply that we kind of know each other, and this is kind of more of a personal call as opposed to a business call. So I just ring up and I go, hey, can I speak to Jess, please? Now, half of the time they'll go, yep, no problem. I'll just go and get her. Probably more than half the time. Sometimes they'll go, can I ask who's got can I ask what they'll say one of two things. Can I ask what it's regarding? Or can I ask, who you are? And I just go, yeah, just tell her it's Craig. So again, they go, oh, okay, just tell her it's Craig. Now, um, yeah. Now, if she says, or if he says, if the gatekeeper says, can I ask what it's regarding? I just go, yeah, yeah. I promised I'd just give her a quick call. I'm just touching base on something very quickly. I make it sound very, very, very conversational. Like this is not a business thing at all. So then what will happen more often than not always, but what will happen more often than not is Jess, they'll get Jess and they'll go, do you know Craig? You got Craig on the phone? No, well, he seems to know you. Oh, okay. Hi, this is Jess. And I've now got the right person on the phone, right? That's the first step, getting to the right person on the phone. And the best way to do it, and that's why I got you to get the manager's name. Because if you ring up and I go, hey, can I speak to the manager, please? It's very unlikely you'll get to the right person ever. And it'll just be an exercise in futility. So you want to ring up. Now, the reason there's a next action column on the spreadsheet is because you want to keep track of what's happening. I'm going to give you the biggest tip ever when it comes to running a business. Track everything. Everything, Jess. Track everything. We have the most ridiculous, insane amount of spreadsheets in our company you have ever seen. Like the single most ridiculous amount of spreadsheets. We have spreadsheets for everything, but that's because as a company, we track everything. That's what you need to do. You need to make sure that you track everything. Now, we'll talk about how to track everything in terms of your business in a bit, but I'm talking specifically about restaurants. You want to track everything because if you have 50 restaurants on your list and you ring 20 of them, you're never going to remember what all 20 of those said. So you need to track what they say. So let's say the first restaurant you call up. You go, hey, is Jess there? Yeah, just tell her it's Jess. I'm here, whatever. Boom. Let's just say one of three things is going to happen. They're either going to say, she's not available. Can you call back? Or they're going to say, or you're going to get through to the person. Those are really the only two options. Occasionally, you might have a really hardcore sale gatekeeper that might turn around to you and say, "Oh yeah, she's not interested." You might get that, which is fine. That's just one of the law of averages. Whatever it is, what it is. But more often than not, you'll either get through to them, or they won't be available. Now, if they're not available, you just want to find out when they are available. So let's say you're calling it now. Also, I should mention the time to make these phone calls are very important as well. Don't make these phone calls on the weekend. Don't make these phone calls around lunchtime. And don't make these phone calls sort of 6 o'clock onwards or 5 o'clock onwards. The reason is those are the busy times for most restaurants and bars. That's when Jess, our fictional manager Jess, I really should have gone with a different name. This is confusing. That's when Jess is going to be super busy and she's going to be running her bar, whatever the case may be, and she's genuinely not going to have time to speak to you. Even if you get her on the phone, she's going to be busy. But more than likely, and she's going to try and fob you off very, very quickly. So you want to try and get in this time. Now, my sweet spot, my best time for speaking to these people typically was around about 9 o'clock in the morning. And I used to make it as part of my sales process. So every single day, I'd spend an hour at 9 o'clock in the morning calling restaurants. And that's what I'd do every single day because my goal was to get as many restaurants as I could. So I used to make the phone calls around about 9 o'clock. But as long as you make them in a time where you don't think that restaurant is going to be busy, you're going to be fine. So now, if they turn around to you and they go, she's not available, you just go, okay, no problem. Can I ask when I can grab her on the phone? It'll take 10 seconds. And they will tell you, because if you've managed to get them to the point that they're telling you that she's not available, unless they're lying, which is unlikely, they'll tell you when she is available. And they'll go, well, she's working this evening. And you go, or she's working tomorrow, or whatever the case may be. You then go, brilliant. So what time would that be? Say 10 o'clock. Should I call it 10? Yeah. Okay. So in your next action, if they say no, if you can't get through to that manager, you just say no, blocked, or something like that. You weren't able to speak to them. If they say that Jess isn't available, and and they give you a time when you can call back, you write that down in the next action column. You put not available, call 2 p.m. Tuesday to speak to Jess, whatever the case may be. This spreadsheet is keeping you organized. Because honestly, if you rang, say, 30 restaurants, would you remember if people had told you to come back and what time to call back? It just wouldn't happen, right? But the amount of people that do that, the amount of magicians that don't track all of this information, which is insane, just insane. So you track, you put down in that next action column, whatever. If you speak to them, if they get the manager and the manager comes on the phone, your goal, now bearing in mind that that manager is going to be busy, your goal with that manager is just to get them to agree to have you come in and have a chat with them for a few minutes. You don't want a big, long conversation on the phone. Because if you have a big, long conversation on the phone, it's very easy for them to say no. You don't want a big, long conversation. So here's how you're going to do it. You're going to open up and you're going to say, hi, so Jess has just come on the phone. You go, hi, Jess. Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to very quickly confirm that you received the information pack that I sent through the post for you a couple of weeks ago. Can I ask if you got it? Or you want to introduce yourself first? Sorry, reverse. So, hey, Jess, my name's Craig. I'm really sorry to bother you. I just wanted to check to make sure you got the information back I sent to you a couple of weeks ago about magic. Did you manage to get that? Now, here's the thing. She won't have got it because you never sent it. But what she'll do is she'll say, no, didn't see that. And you go, really? Oh my gosh, I'm really sorry. It had everything in there that you needed to see. Very briefly, I know how busy you are. My name's Craig, and I'm a professional magician, and I specialize in working in restaurants. And I have been given your name by a couple of other restaurants, and they've suggested that I give you a call and basically just talk you through what I do, because basically I specialize in coming into restaurants and using magic. There's a whole bunch of benefits, which is why there's a lot of other restaurants in the area that are actually using me. Now, I know how busy you are. Have you got a few minutes at some point in the next week where I can just pop in for a few minutes and I can tell you all about what I do and I can even show you a trick? That's really the pitch. That's all it needs to be. But did you what I said there? There were certain things I said for specific reasons. So at the beginning, I say, hey, it's going to be a very quick thing. She knows I'm not going to keep them on the phone for very long. Very quick thing. My name's Craig. So you're introducing yourself. My name's Craig. I'm a magician that specializes in working in restaurants and bars. I've told her I specialize in doing magic in the bars and restaurants. So now she knows that I'm not just, I'm working this industry. And the key thing is I say, look, I've been given your number, or I've been told to contact you by a couple of people that have suggested that your venue would be perfect for what I do. Now, that carries more weight than if you say, I was going through the internet and I like the look of your bar, so I thought I'd give you a call. It carries more weight. Um, uh, so then you say, I'm working with a lot of. Now, it was fairly easy for me because I was working with lots of restaurants. I got to the point where I was constantly working with restaurants. So I would use this thing called sheep factor, which we talked about. It's an impulse factor. I would say to this person, everyone's doing it. They're all having me in their restaurant. You should as well, right? It would be very easy for me to turn around and say, look, I work with a lot of other restaurants, and and they've suggested that I come and speak to you because what I do would be perfect in your venue. You don't have any other restaurants. My advice, however, would be to fake it until you make it, and just kind of say that. You don't have to. It's completely up to you. I didn't have to because I actually did have lots of other restaurants. But the easiest way is to fake it. To be perfectly honest, it's
Will
like
we not ask? will they not ask kind of like where you work or
They're
not?
never going to get into that conversation with you. They're
Okay.
never going to get into that conversation with you, ever. At any point will they work into the conversation with you? But if you so please don't worry about it. Now, if you're worried about saying that, you don't have to, but sheep factor is an important way to get your foot in the door, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
You don't have to use sheep factor. If you didn't want to do that, you could turn around and you could say, I specialize in working in restaurants, which you kind of do, because that's the one that you want to spend time doing. So you specialize in working in restaurants. My magic that I do is perfect for a restaurant environment, which is true. And I've currently got space in my diary for one restaurant to work with them to help, to help build up their business whilst at the same time making sure that all of their customers have an amazing experience. So you could say something like that if you wanted. There are ways of saying it without saying, "Hey, I work for these restaurants." I found that was the best way to do it. But again, I was actually lucky in that I was actually working with all of those restaurants as well. I was actually in that situation where I was actually working with lots of other restaurants. It's up to you how you do it, but the point is, you just say, I know how busy you are at the moment. I don't want to have a conversation right now, but is there a time I could come in for a few days and just talk you through what I do, and perhaps even show you a trick? Uh, is there a good now? When you're doing sales, the most important thing is the close. I think we mentioned this the other week. The
Yeah.
close is what you say to have the conversation go from a pitch into into yes, let's do that. Okay, so the close in this case is we kind of go for an. I always went for an assumptive close. Do you know what an assumptive? Have I mentioned assumptive
Yeah.
close? Yeah, assumptive close is, hey, you assume that they are going to want to do it, and you're giving them two options of when. So, so for example, an assumptive close might be, so what day is best for you? I'm free Tuesday and Wednesday. Would that work? Or something like that. But that's kind of your assumptive close. Um, which works really well. So you assume they're going to do the sale. Now, what's going to happen? One of three things will happen when you have that conversation with them. More often than not, the first thing that will happen is they will say, "Yes, I am free on this date," and you book it in. In which case, on the next action, sorry, my dog is barking. I don't know if you can hear the dog. I'm very, very sorry about that, Jess. So the hopefully somebody in my house will get the dog and stop the dog from barking. You never know. Not yet, but we'll see. So the first option, the first option is they give you a date and time, and they go, "Yes, I'd like to. I'm free on this date." And at which point you go, "Brilliant, okay, no problem." And you're going to put on your spreadsheet next action. You're just going to put on there the date and time that you're going to go and see this restaurant owner. So you're going to put Tuesday 6 p.m. or whatever the case may be, meeting there, and that's going to go in the next action column. So again, we're using that next action column to keep ourselves really super organized with what we're doing, right? So that's
Yeah.
the first option. They say yes. And then what I'd do is I'd send them an email as well. And you'd say to them, "Okay, Tuesday, 6 o'clock. That's absolutely not a problem. Thanks very much. I'll see you then. I'll drop you an email just so that, just to confirm that. But I look forward to seeing you. Thanks." It should only be a 1 minute phone call. Now, what I would do is confirm the email address with the manager, because the email address that you got off the website might be a generic email address. The email address that you have might go to somebody else. You want it to go directly through to that manager. So I'd say, yeah, you know what? No problem. 6 o'clock Tuesday. That's absolutely fine. I'll drop you an email. Can I just confirm your best email address? If they give you a different email address, just overwrite the one in your spreadsheet with that one instead, because you've got to a point now where they're giving you the correct email address. A lot of the time on especially managed pubs, like Hungry Horse and stuff like that, and those sort of pubs. They're not very good at keeping the information active online, because the managers change over so often. So one manager might have set up on various different platforms information about their pub to try and get more trade in. And then when that manager leaves and another manager comes in, he's not aware or she's not aware of all of these things that have been done. So if that email address changes for that manager, which it will do, they won't have updated it on those various different websites. So the email addresses can be out of date a little bit sometimes. So it's always a good idea to check that email address. So the first thing that will happen is they say, yes, you confirm the email address, you send them an email, and then you go in on the day, and that's going to be the phase two. The second thing that they say is they say no. Well, there's four things that they'll say actually. The second thing they'll say is no, we're not interested. Now, it was rare for me to have a no at this point. You got to remember though, law of averages. We talked about the law of averages. Every no brings us closer to a yes. So if you ever get a no, it's totally not an issue. You're not going to be able, reality check, you're not going to have 10 restaurants on your spreadsheet, ring up all 10 and get 10 residences that are going to keep you there for 15 years. It's just not going to happen. So you are going to have people say no at various different points in this sort of procedure. That's fine. That's okay. But if they say no, you just very politely say, okay, no problem. Thanks very much. I hope you have a great day. And you just put no. And have another column after next action and put why not or reason why not or something like that as the header. And when you get off the phone to the manager, if somebody said no, ask them why. So no, we're not interested in that. No problem. That's absolutely fine. Is there a particular reason why? And they go, I think magic's shit. Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. And you write in the column, magic is shit, or whatever the case may be. We don't have the budget for it, whatever the reason is, because you want to keep on top of that. This is another thing that people don't track. When you're getting inquiries or leads, you should do this through your own website as well, but you should do this in every process where you're actually dealing with leads and inquiries. You want to keep track of why people didn't book you, because if you're keeping on top of that and you're keeping on top of why people don't book you, you might see a pattern. So, for example, if you're keeping track of all of your inbound leads to your website and everybody is saying, you were too expensive, you were too expensive, you were too expensive, it might be that your prices need adjusting potentially. If you're getting a load of people that are saying no, and when you look at it, the overwhelming majority of that is because they've turned around and said, I don't know, you just don't look good enough or something. It might be your digital footprint needs looking at. If it's somebody saying, oh, you don't have any videos, and I've booked somebody that has got videos, you might need more videos or whatever. So keeping track of why people don't want to do something is as important as keeping track of all the other information. So that's the second one. So the first one is yes, they book in, you put down the date and time. The second one is no, in which case you put no and you send them, you put down why not. The third one is if they turn around to you and they say, sounds good, I'm a little bit busy at the moment. Can you call back in a week or two? Now, that can happen. It might be that they're going on holiday. It might be that there's stuff going on and they do want to speak to you, but they don't want to speak to you straight away. Now, that can be one of two things. That can either be them fobbing you off or genuinely they aren't available at the moment and they want to speak to you in 2 weeks. Either way, you say, so if I was doing this with you, Jess, I'd go, right, okay, so today is the 5th of October. 2 weeks' time would be the 19th of October. Shall I give you a call on the 19th and you can let me know where we're at? Yes. Brilliant. I'll give you a call on the 19th. And then you can put on your little next action, 19th, call back on the 19th to discuss coming in for a meeting. And then you can say to them, I'll drop you an email as well with a link to my website so you can have a look at that website. And then I'll drop you another email a couple of days before giving you a call. Is that okay? Yes. Can I confirm your email address? Brilliant. Thank you very much. So then you can, when you get off the phone, you can send them an email going, great speaking to you on the phone today. Like I said, I really think that I would be a great fit for your venue. I've attached a link through to my website. Feel free and have a look at that. And I'll give you a call in a couple of weeks. And then maybe on the 17th, you send them another email going, hey, it's Jess here. We spoke a couple of weeks ago. Just so you know, I'm going to give you a call in a couple of days just to discuss coming in and having a chat. It just makes you look more professional. Communication is key in anything. Communication is key. I've just done a video for Magic TV, and it's a 5x5. And the video is the 5 biggest mistakes that will kill a booking, the 5 biggest sales errors that will kill a booking. And one of them is not getting back to the client when you told them that you were going to get back to them, because then you just look like a fool, right? So that's why this next action thing is so important. So the third one is, yeah, maybe call back in a couple of weeks. Boom, you put it in there, send them an email, job done. So we've had not yet, we've had yes, we've had no, and then the fourth one is they're wanting some more information. So they want to have a conversation there and then, basically. So they ask a question, a little bit like, so how would magic work at a restaurant? I don't understand that. You know, a magician at a restaurant. This is where you need to know your pitch. And we'll get more into this next week. But this is where you need to know your pitch. This is where you need to know why magic is a good thing to have in a restaurant. And there's different reasons. And it's your job to get in your head to find out what the reason is for that restaurant. So, for example, I'll give you a couple of examples. So when I was working restaurants on a regular basis, there were quite a few restaurants that I worked with, and they wanted to build up a quiet night in the week. And I would tell them that magic will absolutely help them build up that quiet night in the week, but it won't happen overnight. So in other words, I'm not going to be able to come in and within 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks turn that round to the busiest night. But I said, if you give me a year and I come in on that quiet night every single week for a year, I guarantee you that quiet night will turn into a busy night. And it always did. I worked at this place called the 1 and 2 Halves in Birmingham. And I worked there for about 9 years. And they had me in on a Wednesday, which was their quietest night of the week, from 6 till 9. And they had me in on their quietest night of the week. And over the course of those 9 years, I turned this into the busiest night of the week, not the weekend, but the busiest night of the week, Monday to Friday. And look, I'm not going to take full responsibility for that, but a lot of the time there were people coming back every single week wanting to see magic. You'd have regulars coming in every single week and bringing their friends and bringing their family and going, "Hey, it's Magic Man, what you got for us this week?" And it really did create a buzz around that week. So there are, you know, it is possible to do that. I've had restaurants that have brought me in and they have no intention of wanting more business. They are ridiculously busy. And if I went in with them with a pitch and I said, well, I can make your nights busier, they wouldn't be interested. So there's several restaurants I work with, and they got me in on their busiest night of the week. And the reason they got me in is because the biggest problem they had was walkouts. In other words, people were coming into the restaurant that didn't have a booking, and they were asking if they got a table, and they were being told there was like a 35-40 minute wait for a table, and rather than waiting in the bar for a table, they would go to another restaurant. So they had me in predominantly to work in the bar and keep people entertained in the bar until their table's ready. So it didn't feel like there was a massive wait. So that when somebody came in, they'd go, yeah, it's a half an hour wait for your table. But if you go into the bar area, I'll send our magician along to come and do a few tricks for you. And I didn't completely eliminate walkouts, but I reduced massively the amount of people walking out. That's a valid reason to have a magician in a restaurant. I've worked in a few restaurants in the past where the reason they want me there is to get the tables turned around quicker. I don't know how much you know about restaurants, but your average restaurant, they want the table turned around. Do you know what I mean by turning a table around?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they want the table turned around as quickly as possible because they want more people to sit down at that table because that means more money. And there were several restaurants I worked at where people would sit at a restaurant table for like an hour afterwards, just chatting and drinking. And the manager was like, get these people the fuck off this table. We need to turn this around, right? But the staff can't turn around to them and go, excuse me, can you go into the bar, please? We need it. It's difficult to do that from a customer service point of view. So I was hired literally to go up to people that had finished eating and go, hey, my name's Craig. I'm the magician. How you doing? Have you finished eating? Oh, brilliant. Well, here's the good news. Here at the XYZ bar and restaurant, we're offering you free entertainment. I'm the magician here. If you come over with me into the bar, I'm going to show you some magic. It's going to blow your mind. And I would get them off that table into the bar, and then they could turn that table around. That's a valid reason to have a magician at a wedding, at a restaurant. There's lots and lots lots of different reasons. Some restaurants, they had me in because they just wanted to provide value for their customers. They wanted just like something fun that their customers knew, hey, it's like, Tuesday night is karaoke night. Thursday night is magic night. Friday night, some restaurants they had me in because they would always have people coming in with a special occasion, like an anniversary or a birthday, or you know Doris's retirement party. She's been working at the same place for 400 years and finally she's retiring, whatever the case may be. There's all of these different reasons. They would literally have me in and I would be the gift to the people whose special occasion it is. And they'd use that as the pitch. Oh, well, if you come in and you have a meal with us, we've got a house magician on that night and he can come over and he can, that sort of thing. So there's lots of different reasons why a magician is required at a restaurant. And your job is to figure out what that restaurant needs and then tell them about it. We've only got a few minutes left. I'm not going to get into the pitch right now. We'll do that next week. Remind me, we'll do that next week. But if somebody says, so how does magic work as a restaurant? You want to try and get off the phone. You don't want to have this conversation on the phone because you want to show them a trick, ideally. And you can't do that over the phone in any sort of level of, So I would typically turn around and I'd say, well, look, honestly, magic in restaurants is ridiculously popular worldwide. It's also ridiculously popular in the UK. There's a lot of restaurants that have magicians, and there's a load of different reasons why a restaurant might need a magician. The whole idea is that your magician will go from table to table, performing to one table, then another table, then another table. It's a great conversation starter. It's a great icebreaker. It really gets people laughing. It's a great thing for you as the restaurant to offer people. But beyond that, there's a lot it can do. It can make quiet nights into busy nights. It can help reduce walkouts. It can get people more excited. I'm telling you right now, the amount of positive reviews you'll have as by having a magician as a restaurant is insane. But one of the biggest things, one of the biggest advantages of having a magician in a restaurant is its unobtrusive entertainment. Now, what I mean by that is, let's say you decide you want to put some entertainment on to drive more people into your restaurant. Let's say that you've decided to put on a karaoke. Here's the problem with a karaoke. Everybody in that bar or that restaurant has to listen to the karaoke. Now, that's fine if you love karaoke. Me, I can't stand it. There is nothing I would hate more than sitting in a room listening to people who can't sing. Like, it's my idea of hell. Like, I can't think of anything worse. If I walked into your restaurant and you had karaoke on that night, I would walk off and find another restaurant. It's very unobtrusive. The thing with magic, it's very obtrusive. You have to watch it or you can't. It's the same with a comedian, stand-up comedian. It's the same with a band. It's the same with a singer. If you've got somebody in who's singing Robbie Williams songs and I hate Robbie Williams, I'm probably not going to go into that restaurant. Magic is unobtrusive because it happens at the person's table. If I walk up to a table and let's say they're having a busy, let's say it's two lovebirds that are chatting and they're really deep in conversation, or let's just say somebody's having a really high-powered business meeting or whatever the case may be, if they don't want to see magic, I can introduce myself, and if they're busy, I can go, no problem. Have a great night, and I can walk to another table. It's not going to affect people coming into your restaurant if they don't like magic. But the people that do like magic, which by the way is the overwhelming majority, will absolutely love it. And I want to try and sit down with you and find out why a magician would be perfect for your restaurant. Because to be honest with you, it might not be, in which case you probably might not want one. But we won't know until I sit down and have a chat with you. And the other thing is, I've looked into this area and you're in a very unique position wherein there's no magicians working in restaurants in your areas, which is crazy because most areas have one or two magicians and you haven't, which means it's a great thing for you to be able to do because you can be doing something that nobody else is doing. So when can I come in and see you? And look, it doesn't have to be exactly like that, but it can be something like that. And you give them a succinct little reason why a magician would be good at their restaurants, and then you reclose them. So you then reclose them and you go, so there you go. When's the best time for me to come in? Now, when you've told them that little snippet, they'll either ask another question, they'll say yes, and they'll give you a time, or they'll say no. And you just continue. So if they ask you a question, answer the question, then close them again. So if they then say, how much would it cost? And then you go, well, it very much depends on the restaurant. That's why I want to come in and see you. It can vary anything from this amount to this amount. It very much depends. Boom, and then reclose them. So eventually you're going to get to a point where it's a yes or a no, and you basically put that onto the spreadsheet. So in phase one, well, phase one was really creating the website. Phase two is getting that spreadsheet to a point where you've spoken to all the managers. Now, the thing is, you can constantly get the nice thing about restaurants is you can constantly add more on. So it's not like you're waiting, it's not inbound marketing. It's not like you're waiting for people to contact you. You can go out and you can find more restaurants at any point. So you can add more restaurants onto that spreadsheet constantly, right? And you can just keep it updated in real time, which is great. But phase two is going through and getting live meetings where you can sit down and you can speak to the person at the actual restaurant, which will then allow you to go into phase three, which is sitting how you approach that meeting. And just so you know, we'll do this next week, the goal of that meeting is not to get them to agree to a restaurant residency. The goal is to get them to book you for a one-off gig where you can then come in and show them how amazing you are. And then at the end of that night, you can then sit down with them. And I'll tell you, when I did this, when I got to the point where I was doing a one-off gig, without fail, I would always land a restaurant residency because at the end of that night, they all could see, oh my God, this is brilliant. Why have we not done this earlier? But it's about getting to that point. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I have literally spoke for an hour and not let you say anything. I'm so sorry.
No, it's good.
I'm just like just like for an hour. Have you got anything to ask about that, or does that all make sense at this point?
Um, in terms of getting the manager's name, you mentioned last week about calling up and just like
Yeah.
asking for it. Is there like a specific way you'll do that, or just say,
I,
can I
I
have the
would
manager's name?
yeah, no, I would just turn around to them and I'd just say, I'm looking for, I can I just take the manager's name? I just ring up and I just say, "Hey, can I take the manager's name, please? Hey, my name's Jess. Can you just give me the name of the manager, please?" And more often than not, they'll just give you the manager's name. It's not like private and confidential information. It's publicly available. And if they turn around and say why, you just say, "I just want to send them something, and I just want to make sure it goes through to the right person." And that will normally be enough. If they say, "What do you need to send them?" You go, "Well, to be honest, it's just something I would like the manager to see, and I don't want to have a conversation about it. Can I just have the manager's name, please?" And
Okay.
and 99.99% of the time they'll give you the manager's name. If at that point they go, "Well, I'd like to know what it is," you just go, "Okay, no problem. I'll find it a different way or something. I don't want to have this conversation or whatever the case may be," or you just hang up on them.
Okay.
But 99.99999% of the time, it's so easy to get it.
Okay, that's good. Well,
Yeah,
I'll check.
yeah. Any other questions on that or anything else?
I don't think so, no.
I think I've just overwhelmed you with I think I've just had verbal diarrhea for the last hour, so I'm very sorry about that. But that's really useful information. That is like really, this is exactly what we need to be doing. So what
Yeah.
we'll do in next week, we'll go through what to do in phase three. But like I said at the very, very beginning of this whole thing, please don't beat yourself up too much, Jess. You've got a lot on. You're doing A levels. You're building a website. You're creating social media content. You're basically turning yourself into a professional seamstress. You're becoming the next greatest quick change designer, let alone artist. There's a lot that you're doing at the moment, so don't beat yourself up. Rome was not built in a day. It doesn't have to happen immediately. That's the advantage. But do what you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. I'm so sorry. Promise next time I'll let you speak more. How's that sound? Awesome. So, guys, that was kind of like a bit of a masterclass in getting restaurants. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Do me a favor, as normal, let Jess know what you thought of the Jess-umentary in the comments down below. You can check out the previous episodes of the Jess-umentary in the playlist, and I'll be back very, very soon with another episode of the Jess-umentary. Until then, Jess, one more time, thank you so much for being with me. You're
Thank
amazing.
you.
No problem. Guys, I'll see you again. My name's Craig. This is Jess, and you have been watching Magic TV.